friends, it's Barbara Erdal, and I'm here today to talk about would you rather? Would you rather have fiber to spin, yarn to knit or crochet with, or would you rather buy the finished object? So I touched on this in a shorter video earlier, but let's go in depth just a bit more. Welcome to my home, my cozy rocking chair here on Hamilton Mountain. I'm a spinner, knitter, sometimes weaver. I started out with crochet. Let's just say I'm over 60. So it's been many, many years since I've been crafting, and I'm just finding that I'm getting into a rhythm that I'm enjoying. So let's get into it here today. Whether you are a regular knitter, regular watcher of any fiber videos, you probably know that you can go onto anybody's channel or anyone's Etsy store or even Ravelry if you're looking for patterns and get the top of the line. There are many places that are selling hand-dyed yarns that are absolutely beautiful, and as a somewhat minimalist, budget-wise person, I just cannot continuously buy the beautiful hand-dyed sock yarns that I see, and I can't really replicate them the same way because I'm not using commercial dyes. I'm using Kool-Aid and food coloring and Wilton's food coloring that I get at Michael's. And I'm still dabbling some in natural dyes, so we can stay tuned for that. But I'm also really into sustainable living and slow fashion. And slow fashion is all about creating. And it's not about going out to the store to get what you need just when you need it. So I actually have my notes here so I don't miss anything today. And I'm thinking I probably set this up not quite the way I wanted it, but that's okay. So buying yarn. Also looking at where you buy your yarn and where is the yarn traveling from, like from where does it come? And I think that's in an economy and an eco-friendly instance, that's something that we can take really, really seriously. Also knowing that some of the fiber preps that are out there are more harmful to the environment than some of your local farmers who are processing your fiber, making your yarns in a more sustainable way. So I'm very passionate about that. This is, there it is. Let me just hold this up. This is some yarn that I dyed. It's a 2-ply, spindle spun. It's actually a pretty big skein for me for a spindle spun. And this yarn was processed. I purchased it from a shop in Nova Scotia. So it shipped up to Ontario, which is kind of not really where I'm going, but that's okay. And it was orange Kool-Aid. I love using orange Kool-Aid because it's just so much fun and the house smells really nice. I do use a bit of vinegar. Kool-Aid has citric acid in it, so you don't need a lot to set the color, but this will not run out. It is light sensitive though, so over many years it may fade. But that's an environmentally more sound process, I might add. And then spinning it on the spindle and then taking it one step further and knitting. So let me just put that on. This is a pattern from my friend Tracy in Germany. Isn't that pretty? And I used all my little tiny skeins and put them all together. So would you rather buy something like this, buy the finished the product, or start from scratch? Because we can all do that, can't we? If we're so moved to. So this is the local that I've started spinning some, and you can still see the crimp. It's a Blueface Leicester merino blend from Sheep, just south of Cambridge, Ontario. And there's a tiny bit of lanolin still in it. And even though it was washed when I bought it, I bought 2 pounds of washed fleece. 2 pounds, no, I bought 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds of washed fiber. This was dyed in, you probably heard the story, in my cast iron pan with marigolds and did a goldenrod. So I still end up with this green color or gray color, but I did spindle spin some of it and it came out like that. 2-ply. Made a little bit of red in there from something else. But don't you love that crimp? Oh, and the sheep are adorable, I must say. They are really, really adorable. So I'm in the process now of putting things together for a craft sale at Linden Park United Church on Hamilton Mountain the last Saturday in October in the morning. So there's my little plug for you. If you're in the area, please drop in. There's going to be some baking. The ladies have been quilting, knitting, crafting. There's all sorts of things. There'll be a white elephant table as well. So, but I'm putting some things together and I'm trying to decide, do I get some sock blanks or some worsted weight blanks and dye them myself and sell yarn, which I can do. That's number one. And that's probably the most economical thing that I can do as far as people buying my stuff. I can spin yarn and possibly sell some of my yarn. But again, that's not inexpensive. So if people are looking for hand spun yarn, I'll have some. I'll have some there. Or do I continue to make mittens, plain ones, patterned ones? The Newfie mitts, if you've seen those, they've got a honeycomb pattern on them. I've done a number of those and people really like them. I don't know. What do you think? What would you do? And what would you prefer? On the other hand, I will be taking orders for mitts, fancy ones like this, fingerless, and regular just standard mitts at different price points. So if you're wanting 100% wool and you're wanting hand spun, they're at one price. And if you want a commercial yarn hand knit mitten, that's a much lower price. But it depends on what you're looking for. I can do a pair a week. So before Christmas, because we're about 100 days away, oh, that's kind of scary. Let me know. Let me know. I'm taking orders now. And I think I can take orders for 5 pairs right now. More maybe, but 5 pairs for sure. And I can do this orange. I can do a green. I can dye in the purple/pink blue. I don't dye blue really well in these kinds of situations and with the dyes that I'm using. So, I mean, if you really want to jump in there and say, hey doll, I'd like some hand spun, hand dyed mitts in this color, what can you do? The black cherry comes out really pretty. I'm just trying to think of what else I have. I have a sage green from Wilton's that turns nice. And I think if I dyed it in the cast iron pot, it might even come out like a nicer green than what I've got. But let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are. And what is the most you would pay for a pair of mittens? I've done thrums. I'm not a big fan of working on them. I think they're beautiful. They're extremely warm. But again, the cost is prohibitive because of the time it would take me to make them. It's the same with my hand knit socks. I have at least 2 pairs of socks that I've finished that have not been worn. And I may put them on display for sale, but I won't take an order for socks unless you speak to me and we can go over how much it costs, because that's not cheap either. I can only do a pair of socks a month. And if I'm buying commercial hand-dyed yarn, merino/nylon sock yarn, you're looking at $30 to $40 a skein. I can get it a little bit cheaper, but then I'm paying for shipping. So just to keep that in mind, would you be willing to pay $45, $55 for a pair of hand-dyed, hand-knit socks. Just something to think about. I only wear my handmade socks. I like them, so. But as we think about would you rather, so the three things. Would you rather the fiber that I can make up for you to spin? I do have this Ontario fiber that I'm really, really happy with, that I can spin, and I would do 100 grams at a time. And I also have a merino cashmere blend that I purchased from a dear friend, and I've got almost 2 pounds of it left. So again, in 100-gram quantities, I could prepare roving and dye that for you. But it's all up to what you would want. So, and then the spinning part, I don't have spindles for sale because these spindles are so beautiful and I can't create them. I can create the ones, you know, where you buy the wooden wheel and you get a dowel and you stick it in, and it's great for beginners. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know. But this one, there we go. Isn't that beautiful? I think again, it's my favorite spindle right now. But you've seen my spindles. I've shared them quite often. So I'm not at a point where I want to be selling spindles necessarily. I'm just going to quickly check my notes here to see if there's anything I've been missing. Trying to live a life that is more eco-friendly and looking at my fiber arts in the same way. So this week, when the group of us got together at church, the quilters, and they were looking at some fabric, and there were 2 big pieces of fabric that they couldn't use for a quilt, but I may be making a skirt for myself out of one of them, maybe a dress or a jumper. I think a jumper out of the other one would be really, really nice. And again, looking at that idea of slow fashion. Sweaters are very slow for me. I don't knit sweaters fast, but that's because I'm doing other things, right? If all I did was knit on my sweater, I might get it done by Christmas. But I really enjoy doing the mitts, and I need to have some things for my craft table at the sale, right? As my brain is thinking, I think that's everything that I really, really wanted to say today. Asking you that question, which would you rather? So either way, you know, let's support a slow fashion movement. Take the old that you have and make it new. You've got something with holes in it, try some visible darning. I have not yet done that. If you've got some fabric scraps, try some quilting, some English paper piecing. Even square blocks that you put together for a child, that could be fun. But whatever you're doing, think about it. Think about the money that you're spending. Think about where the item came from. Okay, so how far did it travel? How much were people paid to create it? Because if they're only getting 3 cents a piece in the factory, how many pieces do they have to do in a 10 or 12-hour day? It's pretty intense when we think about it. And is it fair? We have to think about what's fair to the supplier. When I went and visited with the shepherdess, it was interesting to hear her talking about looking after her small flock. She has a hand spinner's flock, a spinner's flock of 20 sheep. And it's just the right size for her because it takes time and care, and she knows them all by name. If you're looking at an industrial product, does everybody know who created it? Where did it come from? I've been in the wool growers warehouse in Carlton Place. The one time I looked in before they closed it up a bit more, and you could see the bales of wool, raw wool, bales of it, factory high, that they would be shipping to China or shipping somewhere to get processed. And they pay very little for it because there isn't a market, right? So when the shearer takes that wool away, the farmer's not getting very much. So I would rather go to the farm and pay the farmer a good market price for what I'm getting, and keep the industry going. I'm looking at who is certified as a Canadian wool grower. I think that's important too. So those are just some of my own opinions, my own thoughts on this as we live in this world and try to keep things clean, to keep the environment healing, but also keep our hands busy as we are enjoying the crafting world. And as you know, I've been doing this 30 days of crafting and spiritual practice. So just to close up with that, every time I handle the yarn, the fiber, the needles, all of that, it's all connecting me with the holy in me, the spirit within me, in God's world, in the world that has been created by the divine. And that's important to me. Yeah, for some people it's just, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to knit, and that's not a problem. I'm not saying that we should all have a spiritual connection to our crafting, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing that we can connect it with something outside of ourselves, something bigger than ourselves, something that we can also use to give back, right? I talked a lot, didn't I? So I think that's about it for now. It's not just about having something to wear, is what I wrote down here. It's about making or owning something with purpose and with care. Something with purpose and with care. Either way, I hope that you are supporting a more conscious fashion world, one that values quality, sustainability, and creativity. I'm so glad you joined me for today. Happy crafting, happy shopping if that's what you're doing, but doing so in a slow fashion way. Oh, and by the way, if you enjoyed this video, please, if you'd like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which of the three you would like. So the fiber, the yarn, or the finished object. 1, 2, or 3. So let me know. And God bless. Till next time.